For our double indie game review today, we have two games both doing something very different with their respective genres. First, dungeon crawling for those of you who don't have the time with Dragon Ruins 2, and then some turn-based high-stakes racing with Vectic Boosted. Dragon Ruins 2 is obviously the sequel to the first game. In it, you play a guild, who after you build your party must figure out how to save the land one quest at a time. I really like the kind of old school, almost 80s fantasy dungeon crawling aesthetic of our character choices, and you get quite a lot of them here. The basic rules are that each class has specific stats as well as what gear they are allowed to use or what gear is best for them. They each start with one unique skill, and as they level up, you'll be able to add more skills as time goes on. The basic process of this game is that you'll choose from a collection of quests. Each kind of quest giver has a chain, and they each are rated in terms of difficulty. So the general idea is that you start with the easier quests. Once they become too easy, you move up to the next quest giver and the next one, and etc, etc. Where Dragon Ruins 2 changes the formula is that this is not designed to be a lengthy dungeon crawler. If you're someone who likes games like Etrian Odyssey, Labyrinth of Refrain, and that level, this is not going to be the game for you. The reason why is that all combat is done automatic. As you wander around each one of the floors, enemies will attack and your party will defend and use their abilities accordingly. If they die, you need to quickly get out of the dungeon before you lose your entire party, or you will suffer a small gold penalty. Characters can be upgraded by either leveling them up, you can spend gold to train them which raises their base stats, or buying and upgrading gear, which again, gear is going to be locked to or is preferred by specific classes or specific stat types. The GUI and general play here is very solid. It's very much pick up and play in that regard. With the kind of high-speed play, Dragon Ruins 2 does play differently than a lot of the other dungeon crawlers we've played. The only real interaction that you have is you have kind of like a super meter that builds on the left-hand side of the screen, and you can activate it once it's filled to do increased damage, and it's kind of used as your boss killer for the floor. Like I said, if you're looking for a very lengthy and very meaty experience, this is not designed to be that game. But if you are someone who enjoys the concept of dungeon crawling, and in a way this reminds me of almost like a slight idle game, in kind of how hands-off it is, then I think this is a great game to kind of burn a few hours on. And I'm not quite sure where they could go with this concept in the future, because if they add any more interaction, it would betray kind of the design. Perhaps maybe more in terms of team dynamics, or more ways of kind of building teams out, as it seems kind of very independent, at least from what we've played. Because each character only gets one skill at a time, you really don't get to see the full range of party builds or party optimization until further in. But still, a very clever idea, and I do enjoy this kind of different take on this formula. We now switch over to Vectic Boosted. Now this is the PC kind of full release of the mobile game Vectic from the same developer. As I said in the singer, we're going turn-based for our racing this time, where instead of having to do all that nasty hand-eye coordination and turns and slowing and speeding up, it's all handled one turn at a time. How this game works is that every turn you decide how your space or your kind of hover vehicle will move, depending on which block you tell to go to. Despite this being turn-based, the game will kind of simulate the act of you gaining momentum and velocity, as the further you kind of choose your square, your section, will allow you to go further on your next turn. However, as you kind of speed up, it will make it harder to turn, aka set up cubes or set up positions that are not directly straight ahead of your vehicle. So this creates a dynamic where, despite this being turn-based, you still need to properly manage turning and controlling your speed, or you'll crash into a rock or go off the track. As the game goes on, enemies or enemy racers will be introduced, as well as the ability to shoot them, set up traps, avoid obstacles, and more. I really do like this idea from a design perspective of translating racing and the same kind of philosophies or methodologies, but turning it into a turn-based experience. Now, with that said, it can be a little bit tricky to grasp at the start, especially when you get some of the more advanced rules, such as when you're able to shoot and whether or not it will hit the car or will just send them or bounce them off to another square. In terms of differences between the mobile and PC version, the PC version will have additional color customization, an expanded soundtrack, and some bonus challenges as well. If you're looking for a very lengthy experience, Vectic Boosted is probably not going to be in that respect. The story page boasts at least over 40 different levels, and I did enjoy this one in terms of the design. So if you're a racing fan who likes racing without the high speed, or a turn-based fan looking for something to simulate the thrill or the need for speed, then I would give this one a play. And that does it for this double review. Both games were played with press keys provided by their respective developers. Let me tickle your game for a future stream, video, and all that. Please reach out. If you did have a chance to play these two, let me know what you think down in the comments. And with that, I will see everyone in the next video. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and if you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.